So just make sure that they have the timetables written out. Make sure they write it out themselves. You can't take any, they have to actually write it. And then you watch them do it. You have to go to the 3-digit. You make sure you do zeros. And just keep relating it back to place value, until the light comes on. And at this point, they're generally just working it on the board. Then you have to give them at least a whole page of problems. You get that, right? Because it has to stick in there. Mm-hmm. Then you move on to
the
division.
Whole practice makes perfect concept.
Yeah, and they have it a lot in there, see? Which I just kind of love this little book. All right, now, this is how I do division. Okay, what's that? What do you have there?
22.
Okay. Divide that, and this is where I still haven't quite figured it out. Do I say divide by 2 or divide into 2 groups of 2? Because if I say divide by 2, people don't get that too much. So again, it's exactly what that language is. But if you say divide into 2 groups, what do you think about that?
So I would say divide it in half. If you divide into 2, but then I was like, no, because now you get into fractions and they're not there yet. So, yeah, divide it into 2 groups.
But you have to be
two equal groups.
Yes, and so now what I did the other day was I started. I had a group and I started with symbols, and in those symbols I did because when we were talking about place value. Then we went to symbols. So we did add, subtract, equals, greater than, and then we talked about what does equals mean. And so we got into a whole kind of philosophical discussion. And I think that's probably the place to do it in the beginning as well, although we had a group. And of course, that's a better thing to do with a group. Mm-hmm. If it's not going to come here, then you have to talk about equals. But then you still should have talked about equals back at addition. So I'm still not exactly sure where to put in equals. I am sure where to put in decimals, though, and it comes after this. Okay, so you can think on it and give me some input on the language, because you're still going to have to transition to the other language. Okay, divide into 2 groups. And I don't say equal. I just let them do it. Okay. And so what do you have?
4, 6, 8, 10, 11.
And now can you show me the math sentence for what you just did?
11.
But how you separated them. Can you show me the math sentence for that? What did you start with? How many did you start with?
22.
And then what did I say to do?
You said to divide it into 2 groups.
I said what?
Divide it into 2 groups.
Okay. What's that first word you used?
Divide.
And what's the symbol for that?
This one.
Give me another one symbol for that.
This one?
Okay, show me how you would do that. And you would divide that how?
2 groups.
And a lot of people will say, they'll get that reversed. So you just make sure you're listening to the language, because it's the language that gets them confused. In the same way of like when you do multiplication, they'll say 8 minus 3. Mm-hmm. 8 take away 3 instead of 3 take away 8. That determines everything. 2 divided by 3 instead of 3 divided by 2. That will determine everything. So it comes down to this is a language, and we are reading and we are writing. And just looking at it from the perspective of it's a language and we're reading and we're writing takes away a lot of the fear out of it. And I talk about this as a symbol. And this is a symbol for what? A sound. Ah, ah. And we put 3 symbols together, but, ah, t, bat. And then that represents, right? So the enforcing that as a language is very important. So now, then the next thing I would do is I would say, okay, what did you tell me? What did you tell me you had there?
22.
Okay, now let's divide that into 4 groups, or divide it by 4. Now, very rarely will you see that. They'll do something, and it will actually take a while to get that concept. And so, and then you're ready to start working some problems. Okay, you get that, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to the double digit, it really becomes, the double digit divisor, right? 21 into 439. It actually becomes much more easy, and you can always take it back to place value. What are we going to divide first? Okay, in the thousands place, can you divide that? No. And then you're back to, okay, that's 1300, so 1 and a 3. That's 1300. Can you divide 1300s? Yes, I can. You see what I'm saying? That was 1 digit there. And so now you're at division, which is usually you don't even have, and they get the divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So you don't even go that route. I've never gone that route with anybody. It's really where I just saw, to my astonishment, that everything goes back to place value. Did you need me to show you any of that? No. Okay. Now, after that point, we're on to what I learned how to do was, because I learned this from the kids, is you throw out the fractions and you say 1 whole. Then you say, now show me 1/2. Now, write the symbol for that. And what's another way of expressing that? I think actually, this is actually what I do next. Before I go there, I say, what is that? And it's right back to when we did that, right? In other words, if they don't get it, then I put a line. Usually they're going to tell you that's a decimal. And then you say, what is a decimal? And it's better, of course, if it's a small group too. But then you're just going to sit there until you figure out that a decimal makes something a part of a whole. Because and then at that point you do a concept of percentages, and you're back to the symbols. What's another math symbol for that, or what's another way to say that in math language? And you come up with, and then once you come up with the idea that a decimal, a fraction, and a percent is a part of a whole, right? And then what does the word fraction mean? Because you're back to language again, right? Then you can go to your place value. And now I leave that alone, and I go to fraction. It just depends on where the kid is. Because we have to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with decimals. But I still have done fractions first. I still seem to I'll do that place value again. And they find that kind of fun. But then I still go back to fractions once we have identified that 0.1 is 1/10, and we can say that 1/10, 0.1, and 10%. Then you can either take that and go to decimals, or you can do that as fractions. Also, when they divide, we end up with a fraction. So I don't use remainders. I think that's silly. And I'll say remainder 20 once, whatever it is.
20, so 21 is actually divisible. It would end up being 1/7. 3 goes into 21 7 times.
Well, yeah, but okay, 5 20 once.
There we go.
5 20 once. And so let's say that. And they like that, And because it really does make them feel smarter. And what is the remainder? I mean, what does that mean? The 520 once is what it actually is. That's it. Oh, you can turn that off. Okay, so if